Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to season 2, a brand new season of the Natural Animal Podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Hatton. I'm an animal naturopath and big animal lover. Here on the show, we share thoughts and ideas about the nature of animals, their preferences, their behaviors, their ways of being, to agenda a greater understanding, respect, and compassion for all animals and love as well, obviously. All animals, companion, farm, and wild. And I'm so excited to bring this new season to you. I've got some really great shows in store for you. There has been a bit of a break between seasons, and I'm going to explain that shortly. But today, the main focus of today's show is going to be about how I care for my animals as an animal naturopath. Now, over the years, I've often been asked questions, and I still get asked those questions about what do I do for my animals. A lot of the time it's, food. Ruth, what food do you feed your pets? Do you recommend this brand? Would you feed this brand? Would you give this supplement, and what have you? And so I thought this would be a good topic to explore with you, right out of the gates for season 2, give you that bit of like insider behind the scenes perspective of how I care for my animals, with all of the knowledge and the wisdom that I have around natural pet care, animal naturopathy, herbs, and all of that. And so we're going to have a glimpse around what I did initially before I started studying animal naturopathy, what I do now. And so we're looking at, diet, supportive supplements and things like that, toxins, all that kind of stuff, finishing off with what I've learned. So that's today's show. So I hope you get a lot of insights from that and things that you can take away and start to put into practice for your animals. And there's never this expectation of perfection. Like, I am not perfect. There are things that I do for animals that aren't necessarily always, best practice, right? But it's not about perfection. It is about doing the best that you can do. So that's a really important aspect that I encourage everyone to take on board. But before we get into that, big break between season 1 and 2. Why? Well, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. And so I've got some special announcements to share with you to, to help explain some of the things that have been happening, in the background. The first thing is I'm super proud and super excited to let you know that for season 2 of the podcast, we have a sponsor. Oh my God, amazing. And who is this sponsor? Who would I even consider, the kind of sponsor that I would want to partner with for this show, which I hold so dear to my heart? Well, I'm very proud to introduce them to you. Frontier Pets is the sponsor for season 2 of the Natural Animal Podcast. If you have been a client of mine, that brand is probably familiar to you because it is one of the brands that's in my recommended pet food list. There aren't many brands that I recommend. I have very high standards, and I always look at, when I'm considering recommending a product, whether it's a food or a supplement of something else, I always have in the back of my mind, or possibly in the forefront of my mind, is this something that I would give to my animals? And if it's a no, then you're not going to see it, right? And so, Frontier Pets is definitely one of those brands, and they are a brand that I've had personal experience with too. When I had my beautiful greyhound Louis, Frontier Pets was part of his meal plan, and he loved it. And so, I haven't fed it to my cats yet, because when I was feeding it to Louis, they didn't have a cat food, but now they have a cat food too. So it's not just food for dogs, it's food for cats too. And you might be thinking, well, what kind of food is it, Ruth? If you don't know. So it is freeze-dried raw. So it's raw nutrition. So you're getting all of the beautiful high value nutrition that you get from raw food. So the kind of food that, cats and dogs are designed to eat, that is biologically appropriate, that their ancestors eat, that, if they were out in the wild, they would eat this, raw. Like, no one is cooking food for them out in the wild, right? So this is has that beautiful nutritional value that raw foods has, in a freeze-dried form, which is really is super convenient. So a fantastic alternative to kibble. So, you scoop it out, you put it in the bowl, you add some water to rehydrate it, and, breakfast slash dinner is served. And that you're getting premium quality ingredients with Frontier Pets. They source all of their ingredients from Australian suppliers, and they're really big on ethics. They're really big on sustainable farming. And they actually have a mission, and this is one of the areas as well where they've really aligned so closely with me and my values. Their mission is actually to help end factory farming of animals that are used in the production of pet food. Now, pets are our second biggest consumers of factory farmed meat after humans, and so huge impact, and all of the poor welfare practices that go along with factory farming. This is something that Frontier Pets is like, we want to help end this. So when you buy Frontier Pets food, when you give Frontier Pets food to your cat or your dog, you're not only prioritizing nutrition and quality, you're also helping to end factory farming of animals. And one of the things that Frontier Pets say, which is I absolutely love, is like, your pet can change the world. Right. Love that. Obviously, you're changing the world too with your pet, because you're really taking on board animal welfare. And that's such a huge issue in meat production that really needs to be brought front and center. So if you're that kind of like conscious consumer, you prioritize nutrition, you prioritize quality, you have, social environmental concerns around, food production, then it's like a no-brainer, right? And, this is all these things that I love about Frontier Pets. And their food, it's like, so all of the meats in the Frontier Pets food is from free-ranging animals, and their produce, their fruits and their vegetables are organic, and it's, species appropriate nutrition. It's all human grade. It's just beautiful food. So as you can tell, I am, excited to the max to be partnering with Frontier Pets for this season 2 of the Natural Animal Podcast. And I'll be sharing more about this beautiful brand and this beautiful food with you as we go throughout the season. But yeah, I do encourage you to check them out, and perhaps even try them in your pets meals, in their meal planning. So that's the first announcement, being working behind the scenes, working behind the scenes of establishing that partnership. The next announcement, what else has been going on in the season break, is some of you may know that I have a range of natural pet products, products that I make. And they used to all sit under the banner of Ruth Hatton, my name, right? And they used to be on my website, ruthhatton.com. And they would just sit there and, they're there, right? And then I decided, you know what, they need their own special home. And so that's one of the things that I was doing in the break, and the podcast break, is creating that new special home for these beautiful natural pet products. And they have their own separate website, their own separate branding, their own separate Instagram account. It's called Three Rays Animal Apothecary. It is a long name. And I thought, when I was thinking of names, like, I had certain, value positions, and certain aspects that I wanted to bring into this brand, right? This beautiful brand, that sits, deep within my heart, and resonates, and has its grounding and its base in nature and animals. So revering that and really bringing back to the forefront, but also personalizing that with, my values, and, which then become the brand values. So I just, when I found the name, when I came up with it, I was like, this is a really long URL, this is a really long social media handle, really long to say it, like Three Rays Animal Apothecary. But I was like, I'm keeping it, because I just love it. I love it. Right. So and its own beautiful logo as well, which was a combined creative effort between me and the beautiful artist that designed the Natural Animal podcast artwork, Bella Abram. She also helped me with this, with the logo for Three Rays Animal Apothecary. You can see it all on the website, threeraysanimal.apothecary.com.au. Told you, long name. And you might be like, well, what is three rays? Like, what is it? What does it mean? I mean, you kind of know animal is straightforward, right? Apothecary, that is, that is it's an old world term for where medicines were crafted and were available for people, right? So I'll just quickly take you through, like, this is on the website, but basically there's two parts of the name, Three Rays and then Animal Apothecary. So Three Rays actually comes from Celtic tradition. It's a concept called Awen, Awen. And in English, that translates to three rays. And it embodies that the very essence of life, inspiration, creativity, wisdom, the living principle, the flowing spirit. And it's also, it can be like those three rays, like imagine like the sun with like three rays shooting out of the sun. And you'll actually see that when you go and have a look at the logo. There's like three dots, and then there's three rays, three lines coming out of those three dots to be representing that three. And even those three things can be different in that Celtic tradition. They've been interpreted in different ways. So it can be body, mind, and spirit, can be land, sea, and sky, can be love, wisdom, and truth, can be nature, knowledge, and truth, can also be the underworld, middle world, and upper world, which I won't go into. It's, spiritual concepts, underworld, middle world, upper world. But the number three holds special significance in Celtic lore, Lore. And, it's like this comforting reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. And for me, it was kind of like, well, body, mind, and spirit, yes. And land, sea, and sky, yes. Nature, knowledge, and truth, yes. Love, wisdom, and truth, yes. All of those are all transferable to what this brand represents. So that's three rays. And then animal and apothecary. Well, like I said, animal makes perfect sense. It's for animals. And then apothecary, an old world term where skilled hands craft and provide medicines for healing. So when you pair apothecary with animal, it becomes like a special haven tailored for our animals. Where, we've got these beautiful tailored remedies, not all tailored, not all personalized. There's some other remedies available there as well. But to soothe and mend our beloved animal companions. So that is all explained on the What is Three Rays page on my website. And the logo, like I said, it's got like the Arwen symbol, which is the three dots, or the three rays reaching skywards. And then there's each dot, which is a beacon of inspiration. So it could be that body, mind, spirit, right? Or nature, knowledge, truth, love, wisdom, truth. And then, and then around that is this emblem of like leaves. And then at the bottom, nestled at the base of the logo, is a single paw print. So it's grounding down all into, our beloved animal kin. And that harmonious fusion of all of those aspects is represented there in the logo. So have a look there. If you are looking for natural remedies for your animals, there's a wide array. There's personalized, bespoke elixirs, so herbs, flower essences. There's also some more like generic type products, like my herbal cleanse is on there. I have dental drops, I have ear drops, I have flower essences like Purify for detox. Um, Serenity, which is just a beautiful, gentle, calming essence, really like essential in your pet care toolkit. Safe and Secure, which is for animals who suffer from separation anxiety. Welcome Home, which is for new animals who you're bringing home to be with you, to be part of the family, and this essence helps them to feel safe and loved and welcome in their new home with you. There's Rainbow Essence, which is for when animals pass. There's my beautiful range of botanical extracts, Nourish, Nimble, and Nurture. And they're a combination of, super greens and herbs and other and nutraceuticals. And they all have different themes to them. Like Nimble also has herbs for musculoskeletal support. Nourish is more of like your generic super boosting, like nutrient boosting extract, but it also has herbs in there that are high nutrient value, that help with allergies, that help, improve skin and coat health. And then Nurture has herbs in there to support the nervous system. So great for animals with anxiety issues. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on there as well. Natural C, which is a whole food vitamin C supplement. Gut Food, which is a beautiful natural herbal based prebiotic. And so many more things. So check them out. Also, there's a few other branded products that I have on there of products that I recommend, that I consider, get my tick of approval, just like Frontier Pets gets my tick of approval, right? Which is not given out, willy-nilly. So check those out. That was a major task building that out. You can also follow Three Rays on Instagram using that same long handle, Three Rays Animal Apothecary. You'll also find it even if you just go to my main Instagram, ruth.animalnaturopath. I mention it in the bio. You can just click on it in the bio, it will take you there. And then you can, follow it and learn all about beautiful natural products for your animals. So that's second announcement. Third, 3 of 3, the final special announcement. This was just something that I created last week. I've been thinking about it for a while. So Instagram has what's called broadcast channels, and they're a way to have a deeper personalized connection with your community, with your Instagram community. And so I thought about doing it for a while, but it didn't, really land. Anyway, last week I was like, I'm doing it. I did a little poll of what I should call it. And the focus of it is around more about the emotional well-being and connection with animals. So that beautiful sacred connection that we can build and have and nurture and experience with our beautiful animals. So that's what that broadcast channel is about. It's called Sacred Animal Connections. And yeah, the focus is emotions, energy, soul connections, things like that. So you can just go to my Instagram, ruth.animalnaturopath, and you'll see that there in the profile, there's a link there to Sacred Animal Connections, and you can join and get that extra information that's not shared in other places, and we can connect on that level. So I think that's all the announcements. It's a lot. It's longer than I was going to share, but this is what happens, right? Chatterbox. So let's get into the core of today's show, how I care for my pets as an animal naturopath. I'm just going to just bear with me while I have a drink, because I've been talking like, crazy person, and I being mindful of talking so fast. I think because it's like the first episode in such a long time, and I'm just like super excited to talk to you. So just like, so sorry about that. Mm. So let's get into it. Let's get into today's show. Now, if we track back, where are we? 2024. Over 10, 11, 12 years ago, what was I doing? I had the same cats as I have now, minus one. And I also had my greyhound, Louis. So this is before I started studying animal naturopathy. So I started studying animal naturopathy in 2014. So 10 plus years ago. And so what I was feeding all, like, I don't know what, 10 years 7 years or so prior to that, was they were having dried food. I was feeding kibble. Let's be real. That's what most people are feeding their pets. That's what we're told to feed our pets. We're told it's great for dental care. We've got to feed the dry food, and normally it's your dry food for breakfast and your wet canned food for dinner. You know the drill, right? So that's what I was doing. That's what I learned as a child growing up. We always had cats and dogs, and that's what they were eating. That's what we fed them, dried kibble, food for breakfast and canned food for dinner. So I was following that, right? I was feeding the dried food for breakfast. I was feeding the canned food for dinner. But I will say it was a holistic brand of dried food. So it was a better quality than your average. And it was based on principles of holistic nutrition. So there were some herbs in there. It wasn't just like a basic food. It was a, pricier brand as well, but it was still kibble. And then for dinner, they were getting a canned food. Was a high quality 95% protein canned food, and is actually still a food that I feed to my cats. It actually is still part of their weekly meal plan, right? So I still, and that is actually still a food that I recommend to pet parents to feed their pets. So I was doing that for years. I was very keen on nutrition and health for myself. And it was just became somehow, like it does with my clients or for you, you introduce into my work, whether that's social media, becoming a client, or this podcast. It's kind of like you probably will have some understanding or already practicing healthy. Maxie's here. Hi, Maxie. Healthy, real food, nutrition for yourself, right? And so then over time, it becomes kind of like oh, look what I'm feeding my pets. This is actually not, I don't think this is good for them. I wouldn't eat this kind of, processed food. So, I went through that journey too, and started to explore and research what is the best food that I can feed my pets. And so, that's what I started implementing just on my own kind of research. Like I said, I still believe that kibble was good for them. But the importance of having that moist food in their diet as well. So they were having 50-50 dried to wet diet. So at least they were getting some food that had moisture in, right? That's one of the problems with kibble. It's very, very dehydrating. Then, as I started my studies in animal naturopathy, which started the first part of that course was on nutrition. So it really, I was diving deep into this topic of nutrition and what is healthy, natural nutrition for cats and dogs, right? And so through those studies, I think it probably took me a year to do that part of the diploma. And I started to change their diet, right? I moved out that kibble and swapped that for an air dried raw food. I started to make homemade dinners for them. So using like real food, like, the muscle meats, organ meats, raw meaty bones, like putting into practice everything that I was learning for my own pets. Because, you got to start with yourself first, right? Before I go and teach you guys how to feed your animals. It's kind of like, this goes back to that practice what I preach thing. I can't be like telling you, you should feed this way. This is the best way to feed. And then I'm here at home feeding kibble, right? Like, no, it doesn't work like that. So I went through all of this first, learning what is healthy nutrition, what is the best nutrition for cats and dogs, and then implementing that as I learned it. So kibble was out, and it also did align with an episode for my youngest cat, who was starting to present with urinary issues. So straining to urinate and struvite, an excess of struvite crystals, blocking his bladder and requiring, vet care. So, and actually one of the vets that I saw was a cat specialized vet. And even she wasn't a holistic or integrative vet, she's a standard vet, but she even understood and appreciated the problem with dry food, especially for cats, as it's so dehydrating. And cats, more so than dogs, cats don't have a natural thirst drive. They need to get their moisture from the food. And that's natural to get their moisture from the food. So part of the problems that can occur with the urinary issues is that they're dehydrated, right? So it was kind of like, that's it. I am done. Kibble's gone. Like there was no transitioning. It was just gone out the door, done and dusted, never again, right? Um, so then I was doing the homemade dinners. I was still feeding that canned food that I was feeding because it ticked the boxes. I was like, yeah, this is a good food. I chose well there. The air dried food, which was the same brand as the canned food. And my dog, well, hello, he was getting freeze dried as well. He was getting front hip heads, like there you go. Um, and so the homemade dinners, what I mentioned already, like this is, the muscle meats, the organ meats, the veggies, eggs, raw meat bones, and some other supplements that I mixed in there. So I would get it, no, I didn't get it delivered then. So I ordered it from an organic butcher. Um, Organic because of my own ethical value position around animals as food. So I don't eat animals myself for predominantly for cruelty/welfare reasons. But, I love cats and they just happen to be obligate carnivores. So I know with my training, right? I know that the best diet for a cat or for a dog is what they're biologically designed to eat, what their ancestors eat, what the species has eaten for the longest period of time. And, a cat as an obligate carnivore thrives on animal tissue, right? So it's like, well, I still have to feed my cats meat, but I'm going to get the highest ethical I can. So I went to the organic butcher and would source it from them. There was actually a stage before then that I missed out. I was feeding on organic raw food. There were these patties. But then after a while, my cats just started to lose interest in it. And I noticed that the food appeared to be whiter. So it looked like there was more fat in there. And yeah, it just wasn't as palatable for my cats. And I was like, So I was like, I had to come up with something else, but there was nothing else on the market. Like there was even less natural cat food then on the market than there is now. Like it's the offerings now on the market for cats, real food nutrition is still very, very limited. And so this was kind of like the only ready-made option on the market at that time that aligned with my 100% with my values, right? So when they lost interest in it, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to feed? And I had that resistance to homemade because one, my ethical values associated with animals as food. I was like, oh, I can't, and it's interesting. It comes up, I do attract a lot of plant-based clients, plant-based humans into my work. And so it does come up every now and again. I can't do that because I don't eat meat. And I'm always like, well, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Because I went through all that hard, oh my God, this is like this is a lamb's kidney that I'm cutting up. This is horrible. And I really struggled with that because you could see that was the kidney. Because when I first started ordering the meat from the butcher, I just ordered like the kidneys, the liver, the heart, and like the diced meats and some minced meat too. And so it was just like you'd get a chunk of the liver and you'd actually get bits of the whole like kidneys and then the heart. And I'm like, it was really, really challenging for me to prepare my animals' food. And I was doing it for Louis as well. So it was a lot, right? And then I asked the butcher, can you dice all of this up for me? And ever since then, that's what I've done. So I now get the organic butcher, actually different one from back then because I've moved several times. But they deliver it to me every second Friday. I get the butcher sends his delivery person out on their rounds, and the cat's meat and stuff arrives and it's all diced up. So it makes food prep really easy, and it does away with that kind of like, oh my God, this is a kidney. As a vegan myself, it's probably my least enjoyable task, but I do it because I know the values of it, right? I know the values of sourcing those beautiful foods, high quality, um, nutritionally superior. And also, when you're doing homemade, you also get to add that special ingredient in, which is your love and your own energy. You can do that too when you're buying ready-made food, just when you're serving it up, just channel your love and vibration into that food, bless it before you give it to your animals, right? So that's I've kind of like moved into what I was doing and what I do now, a bit of merging happening there. But since I started doing that, that's how it's always been. So now, with some slight changes. So now they do have it's just my cats now. I don't have Louis anymore. So the cats they'll either have their canned food, which is 95% protein. They will have their and minimal synthetics in that. And nothing apart from the minimal synthetics, nothing that's not food is in that food, right? Then sometimes I alternate that with their breakfast for a frozen fresh raw organic food. So they have that for breakfast as on alternate days. Dinner, they have their homemade dinners, which I batch prep once a fortnight. Like I said, butcher delivers, it's all diced up. I literally have 14 containers for 14 dinners over a fortnight, glass containers, because I don't like to store anything in plastic that's going to be frozen or refrigerated, because you've got the issues associated with BPA and other toxins within plastic leaching in refrigeration, also leaches in heat as well. So don't reheat or heat up food that's in plastic, as well as don't store food in plastic. So I have the 14 glass containers. The delivery comes, I literally make it up that day, like Friday night fun, once every second Friday. And I just evenly, when I first started, I built the recipe out, right? Because I had the training to do that, right? So I worked out how much they needed and how much of this and how much of that, how much muscle meats, how much bone, how much organ meats, what have you. And then how much egg, all that, how much veggies, da da da. So when I first started out, I was following a recipe. But then it was kind of like, well, I'm buying the quantity of food for 14 dinners. I'll just divide it evenly across the 14 dishes. Sometimes they might get more dinner, sometimes they might get smaller dinner. Over that 14 days, it all balances out, right? So I just put it all in there, seal them all, stick them in the freezer, and then when I'm about to I get for their dinners, I will take out their dinner for that day in the morning, and pop it in the fridge so it can start to defrost in the fridge. And then just before dinner time, I will take it out. I'll fill up the sink. I'll fill up a dish with hot water, place the food from the fridge into that dish with the hot water to bring so that the food is not cold anymore. And why do I do that? Well, because as well as making sure that we're feeding, their natural diet, it's also about how would they eat that? So with cats especially, they like fresh kills, right? They like to eat it fresh. Dogs are a bit, they're happy to like bury it and eat it later, right? But cats, they don't do that. They like it fresh. And so when it's fresh, it's warm, right? Because the body has only just died, right? So that's what that is. I'm heating it up. So that's bringing warmth to the food so that, as closely as possible replicates, well, if they were out in the wild, fresh kill, it would be warm, right? So it also helps with bringing out the juices and the flavors for them. So it starts the digestion process happening before they even eat it. The smell There's more smell, particularly when you're doing raw. It doesn't have as much of a smell as when you cook meat. So when it's warmed up in that hot water, it has a stronger smell. So that's starting those digestive processes as well, right? So there's all reason to that, as well as I just think you don't want to eat cold food, do you guys? No, Maxie says. Although they will if they're starving, right? So they also get minimal treats. So I am often asked about treats. I'm not a big treat giver. They do have treats, but I would rather spend my money on their main meals, which is the most important part of their diet. Like, I want them getting that high quality, species appropriate nutrition in their diet, right? So that's where I want to spend my money. And I do, like, I will be honest with you, I spend quite a bit of money on their food. I mean, I just have cats. Some of my clients have big dogs, like, and we have to look at, they won't necessarily be able to feed the quality that I do because they've got to feed so much more of it, right? So I probably spend for my two cats or the organic butcher delivery, that works out to be about $95 a fortnight for two cats. And then the convenient food, like those breakfast foods where I buy, they're pre-prepared. Um, that's probably more because it is cheaper to make the food yourself, right? So that is more, although not necessarily, like, I actually haven't done the math on that for a while. I could do a quick kind of thing now. It's probably about, it might be slightly less actually. It might be more around like 70, 80. So roughly I'm spending anywhere between 150 to 200 a fortnight. So 75 to, I can't even do the maths right now. Oh my God. Anyway, you get the gist, right? So a big portion, that's for a lot of people, that's just not going to be an option, right? So that is organic, that's free range. So some is free range, some is organic. Mostly it's organic, and then the rest of it is free range. Um, but I also spend a lot of money on my own food. I don't have kids, so I don't have that expense, to worry about. I live a pretty, I do pay high rent. I mean, don't we all? Whether we're paying high rent or high mortgage. So I do have high expenses as well, but I don't have the expense of children. Um, my business is my only source of income, but I prioritize health. I prioritize nutrition. I prioritize the food that I eat. I prioritize the food that I feed my cats. I prioritize how much I spend on my home, on my rent, because I'm at home all the time. I live here, I sleep here, I work here, right? So it's like I want a beautiful home in a beautiful environment because that feeds my soul, right? I'm not out at work 5 days a week and only here on evenings and sporadically over the weekend. I'm at home a lot, right? So there's a lot that I don't spend money on. Like, I don't spend a lot on consumables. Like, I don't go and spend a lot of clothes and bags and shoes and makeup and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I have none of those kind of like expensive, what do you call that? Things. So it is like home and food, home and health. That's where I prioritize my spending. And so when you do that, it's kind of like, yeah, I spend a lot on this stuff, but I'm not spending money on all the other things. And so it's all, you might be like, shit, Ruth, there's no way in the world I can spend that much money on my animals' food. I don't expect you to, because we all have our different circumstances, right? There's going to be some of you that can easily afford that, can afford even more than that. There's going to be some of you that's like, there's no way in hell I can do that unless I take a second and third job or, take out a loan, right? And that's just ridiculous, right? You're not going to do that. So it always comes back to, and I'm always speaking up at this and promoting this, it always comes back to the best that you can do. It also might not be appropriate for you to feed your animal raw, right? You might not have access to organic, if take away the financial aspect, you could be living rural and you don't have access to it. I have a lot of clients in that situation, they don't have access to it. So it's all about what's available, what fits what are you prepared to spend? Um, do you need to modify your budget to prioritize that over that? Are there some things that you can let go of so that you can spend more on your pet's diets? And then you kind of work out, what you can afford, what's available to you. That's the best that you can do. That's all anyone can ever expect of you, right? So I went off on a bit of a tangent there. I was starting to talk about treats, right? That's right. It makes sense now. So I was talking about I prioritize that money in terms of food on those main meals, right? Because again, it's like I know that a chunk of money I've got to have a chunk of money available every week, every fortnight for that high quality food, right? So treats, it's kind of a less concern. The treats that I feed, there are actually available on Three Rays Animal Apothecary, Suburban Pup. Um, I've been working closely with Suburban Pup for a very, very long time. First, so I'm their dog, Anna of Suburban Pup. I'm their dog's animal naturopath, and helped formulate the beautiful foods that Suburban Pup used to have on offer. So, beautiful relationship that's ongoing with Anna and Suburban Pup, because not only do I feed those treats to my cats, I also make them available on Three Rays Animal Apothecary. Um, and they don't get treats every day. Like normally, like it might just be in the afternoon if they come out and they're actively looking for food, then I'll be like, okay, I'll give you a treat. But I don't make it like a habit. There's just treats available, right? Because they're not hungry. They don't need it. If they're just sleeping, they don't need it, right? So very minimal treats. And then in addition to diet, I give them a bunch of supplements. So here's a list of what I give them. So herbs. So each of my cats have particular areas of weakness in their health so I support them with that to manage those conditions, to prevent, so preventative health care, to prevent an increase in symptoms or what have you. So both cats have their own bespoke herbal elixirs. So they get those 6 days out of 7 mixed into their meals. They also get a variety of medicinal mushrooms that I've selected specifically for what I consider they need. Natural C, which is my whole food vitamin C product. They're both senior cats, so that is part of my senior pet care supplement protocol, vitamin C. Cats and dogs produce their own, but just like with humans, stress can deplete vitamin C stores. I mean, we don't produce our own vitamin C, we have to have it in our diet. But cats and dogs do produce their own. But if they're ever under a state of stress, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, aging is a stressor, then it can be beneficial to supplement with vitamin C. So just because as soon as my animals, as soon as my cats hit the 10-year mark, they're getting vitamin C, right? They're getting my natural C, which is a combination of, three um, rich whole food sources of vitamin C. I've recently started them on a collagen probiotic, which is also in my store at Three Ways. They get Nourish too, so that botanical extract powder. They've been getting the variation of that for years and years and years and years and years. Bone broth sometimes, a few other things here and there, like sometimes I'll put some hemp seeds in there. Sometimes I'll put they're getting a lot in the Nourish anyway, coconut, psyllium, sunflower lecithin, they actually don't have the super greens. I modify it for them because Elvie's been diagnosed with hypothyroid, so you don't want to give any iodine rich foods. So I just increase the green herbs in the Nourish for them. And they've had homeopathics in the past, flower essences in the past. If they're on a detox, then they get the herbal cleanse and my purify. I'm putting some flower essence in Elvie's water at the moment to support his thyroid. So wherever there's been kind of health problems or I've noticed something that's different, then I will, incorporate a natural food or ingredient into their diet to support them. Um, I also do energy healing with them. It's a bit sporadic, because of, but life happens, but as best as I can, I give them energy healing. They also do get exposed to the healing energies whenever I'm doing remote energy healing sessions. So that's a plus for them. That beautiful, peaceful, relaxing energy just vibrates through the home. And they'll often, especially Elvie, will sit under this table here when I'm doing those sessions, helping, I think, and also receiving. Yes, give me some of that, mum. What else is really important for them? Safe, quiet space. Like they have their own safe spaces that they can go to. If there's anything that's going to trigger them, like visitors, particularly men, they don't really like men very much. Loud trucks, things like that. So Max's safe space is the wardrobe. It always has been. My mum calls him the wardrobe cat. Elvie will also go in the wardrobe or he'll go under the bed. Just depends, what he feels like in that moment. So they have that safe, quiet space to go to whenever they need it, right? Or they just want to get away from everything and that's where they go, right? I do treat them as a priority. They are one of the top priorities in my life. Like I love them to bits. Like I was in the shops the other day and someone was calling their child Bubba. And I said to her, I call my cats Bubba. And she was like, well, And I said, yeah, they're my kids. And she says, like, yeah, exactly. They're your cat version of kids, right? So, and again, I don't have kids. So that, even if you do have kids, doesn't mean you can't prioritize your pets, right? So they are a priority. I'm always thinking of them like, if I'm going to be out all day, what can I do to support them? I don't really go away much, and I'm not saying that you can't go away. That's just me. I did a lot of traveling in my youth. I love being at home with them. Like I just love it, right? So, but they definitely are a priority. I put them before myself. But I'm learning that I also need to put myself first too, because when I do that, that helps them indirectly. Movement. So they do, and movement and safe outside space kind of go together. So they do have a balcony, the deck, where they can access the garden during the day when I'm at home. If I'm not at home, they're inside in the house. That I don't let them be outside when I'm not there. At nighttime, they can go out on the deck, but not in the garden, like it's gated. So I close off the gate so they can't go into the garden. But yeah, during the day, they have access to the garden. But as they've gotten older, they're less interested in being in the garden. Like every now and again, they'll go out there and they'll walk around or eat some grass and what have you. But I'm in the hinterland, so I have like national forest like right at my doorstep. So I'm always a bit concerned about snakes. Um, so I think they might like tune in to a bit of that fear that I have. But yeah, it also could be because well, at the moment it's hot out there and they don't want to be out in the hot. But it might just be, often I see that when animals get older, they feel safest at home. Yeah. But I still give them that option because I know how important it is for them to be outside, to, feel the dirt on their paws, to lay on the dirt, to be in the sun, to eat the grass. A lot of that they can do on the deck. I do have grass on the deck for them as well. But sometimes it's like Max, and every morning they go out there and they have a nibble at the grass, and sometimes they overdose and they vomit, and sometimes they'll show no interest in that grass and they'll go out in the garden. They want to eat the grass in the garden because it's a different species to what's on the deck, right? So it's giving them options. It's giving them autonomy, freedom. Autonomy is like freedom of choice. I think that's really a really crucial aspect of pet care because oftentimes they're just trapped inside and they actually, they come from the wild, right? Their origins are the wild. So, and everything needs to be in nature. Everything needs sun, fresh air, access to plants and things like that. So it is a crucial part of their care and giving the freedom to, I want to go here, I want to do that, right? I know some people don't like to have their pets in their bedroom. I could not have my pets in my bedroom because I just love being in their space and them being in my space. But, my space is their space is my space, because everything is shared, except I don't go and hide in the wardrobe or hide under the bed. Like that's their space, right? So I create time. Well, I don't really create time because I don't have to think about doing it. It's just a natural thing. But there is certain, like I watch TV. Most of us do, right? But of an evening, it's one of my favorite parts of the day because we're all there together. Like I put the TV on, have my dinner, and the cats know. Like we're just going to chill out for a couple of hours. Elvie will, they might go out on the deck every now and again, but they're just, they come up and Elvie will come up on the couch and snuggle with me, and Max will be sitting there. And it's just like, oh, my beautiful boys. And we're all just together and, chilling out. So it's really, really beautiful. But there'll also be times when I'm working and, the cats will come up on the desk like Max did just now. And Elvie will like lie right down in front of me whilst I'm trying to work. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a break now and just, spend some time loving you and receiving your love. We're a really tight knit unit. Like we're always talking to each other and there's just so much love between us. So that's part of, that's that emotional well-being, that energy, that sacred connection, which is just as important as what you're feeding them, right? Um, so there's other things like, the whole perfection piece, other things I want to say around that just quickly is, Max doesn't eat raw meaty bones. Max doesn't eat big chunks of food. I've never been able to get him to eat that. I transitioned to him to a natural diet much later in life than I did for LV. So LV's always eaten raw meaty bones because when he started his life with me, that was on offer. And so that's just been maintained in his diet, and also giving him, like, he has big chunks of meat. So he has that wild eating, that wild in him, and that natural, that's, chewing meat is really good for dental hygiene. It helps to clean the teeth. It helps to exercise the jaw. It also satisfies that mental enrichment of, tearing flesh. That's what they naturally do, right? Not everything is like, they don't get soft food out in the wild. Like no one's like mashing their food for them in the wild. It's natural for them to have chunks to be able to chew on their food. Um, so Max doesn't eat like that and as a result, he doesn't have the best dental hygiene. But I can't force him to eat what he's not going to eat, right? And so I have to do other things to manage that. Elvie's hunger, like he's a foodie. He's always been a foodie. And this can happen a lot. He was a street cat, and this can be a tendency with street cats. Like if they've had to search and scrounge for food, or even rescue cats, if they've been, um, you know, there's been a bunch of cats and they're all trying to eat food out of the same bowls and things like that. But more so I find it with street cats, it can become like a bit of a programming that they have that kind of innate kind of hunger, and they just want to keep eating because like maybe they're not going to get food for like 3 days. But I mean, sure, Elvin, you should know by now that he's going to get food every day, at least twice a day, right? So, I have to be kind of stringent and eagle eye, because he will, if so, another cat's food is there, he's going to eat it if he can, if I haven't removed it, so I've always got to have my eagle eyes and make sure that, moving Max's food around all the time so that LV can't get it. So there's that I've kind of, he eats more than he should. Um, he just loves food. He gets so much enjoyment out of it, and joy matters. The other thing is, one other thing as well is toxin exposure. So my cats, they're not on any pharmaceuticals, no chemical treatments whatsoever. There's no artificial fragrances that I use in my home. All of the cleaning products are all natural. Um, there's obviously furnishings and paint, things that are more like high cost, or things that were done before I moved in here that I had no say over, no control over. But everything that I purchase and bring in to the home, is, most things, not like a big ticket like furniture. When I can, I will buy natural, like natural linens and things like that. but it's not always possible from a budget perspective. But certainly those things that I mentioned, pharmaceuticals, chemical treatments, no. Unless they do need like a surgical procedure, obviously at the vet, then there's going to be chemical exposure there, pharmaceuticals there, but then they'll go on a detox after that, right? Um, another little thing, LV, like I do yoga at home. And LV loves just being there with me when I do yoga. Like if he's outside, like he'll hear the, I do certain yoga classes that are on YouTube. And so he knows when I put it on and roll out the yoga mat. But if he's outside, he might be outside for a little while and then he'll meow, 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 let me in. And he'll come and, brush up against me and lie on the mat and just, like cat yoga, right? So I love that because it's just a special bonding time as well. And I think it's just he knows. I mean, yoga is so supportive of energy hygiene. It just helps to move the energy through the body. It's really energy balancing. And the energy when I'm doing the yoga. So Elvie's kind of like, oh, yes, she's doing yoga. Brilliant. I'm going to go and soak up those good vibes, right? Same with meditation. Oftentimes, Elvie especially will be with me or near me when I'm meditating because the energy, is so good. So that's kind of like, you know, that's generally speaking, that's how I care for my animals as an animal naturopath. And why do I do it? Why do I do all of that? Because they mean the world to me. Like I want them to be around healthy, happy, vibrant for as long as possible. And so this is why I do all the things. And what have there's a lot of learning that I've received over the years of caring from them, like pre-study, post-study, pre-qualified, post-qualified. Um, I guess the main things of what I've learned is it isn't as hard as people say or think it is to care for your animals this way. It is more work than just going to the supermarket and buying kibble and just serving that and that's it. And, getting your parasite spot on treatments or pills or chews or whatever, and going to the vet whenever something happens, right? Not that that's easy. But feeding natural food, sourcing natural food, knowing what supplements to give, giving them that emotional support, that quiet time, private, safe space, mental enrichment, access to outside fresh air, grass, things like that. Initially it can be completely overwhelming if you're just starting from the outset. Like there might be some things that you're already doing, but I always say, don't do everything at once, just start with one thing. And that's what I did. And I started with the diet first. And then once I, was happy with that, then I moved on to what supplements can I do and what treats and, what are the extra things that I can add to their diet? What herbs will they benefit from? So it's certainly something that's happened over time. And then after a while, it just becomes second nature. And to be honest, like even with the extra time, the extra expense, and it's not always more expensive. Like I've had clients that says, actually, Ruth, this is costing me less than what it was costing me before. You can save money caring for your animals this way, right? So that's an incentive too, right? But it's worth it. They're worth going the extra mile. They are worth doing the research. They are worth spending the money. They are worth, if you need expert support, like someone like me, they are worth it, right? Spending the money, spending the time, making the effort, they're worth it, right? And for me, it's like that. Because of that, all of this is just a no-brainer, right? So there we have it. I hope you found that helpful. And, if you want to start looking at, different foods, well, hello, let's bring back the beautiful, sponsor for the podcast, Frontier Pets. If you are looking for premium quality ingredients sourced from ethical Australian suppliers, check out Frontier Pets. They provide better pet food for a better world. So you can check them out at, oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart. I did have this written down, but obviously I didn't. Frontierpets.com.au is their URL. I mean, you can just Google. It's very easy to find things these days, right? So check them out. If you've got any questions or anything, let me know. On my website, on the podcast page, is actually a little link to a form that you can fill out and put your questions in, your ideas for topics, for guests, and things like that. But you can also send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear any feedback that you got from this episode. Um, what were your take home points? What did you find the most helpful? I'd love getting feedback like that. Um, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And if you do enjoy it, please leave a review. This helps me to get the show out there to a broader audience to spread this information, right? And improve the lives of all animals. So thank you so much and see you next week. Next week will be a guest episode, which I'm like over the moon to bring it to you. It's like someone that I was kind of like before I started the podcast, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if they came on the show? Anyway, they're going to be on the show. I'm not going to tell you yet. It's a surprise, but make sure you tune in. And if you forget, well, subscribe, then you won't forget because you'll get a little alert on your phone saying new episode or whatever those alerts say. So, I think I've chewed your ear off enough now, been over an hour, goodness me. So thank you so much for your attention. Take care. Big love to you and your animals, and I will see you next week. Bye.